Right, hello everyone, welcome back. I'll declare the meeting open again, and I've got an apology for lateness from Councillor Swiggs. Would someone like to move that? Happy to move it. Aaron Kewen, seconded by Pauline Cotter. I shall put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That is carried. Declarations of interest. I've had none of those, and we'll move on to the hearing of further submissions. First of all, Crusaders Limited Partnership, Hamish Reddick. Please come forward. Page 12 on your agenda.
Did you notice Crusaders is here too? Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Just councillors, you may not have noticed, but on the hub, all of the annual plan documents are now under annual plan 2017 to 18. So we've actually set up, I think it was a request from the weekend, that everything go on into one page, and they're all there. Now I can't find anything. What's today?
22nd, it's the last one.
23rd's today.
22nd?
Eh?
22nd.
Right, okay, that's because I opened the wrong one. Far away.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to address the council. We understand that the submission we have made has been read, so we don't wish to go through that in any detail
Been published
again.
in the press as well.
Yes, I saw that. But there's a couple of comments that perhaps we could make at the beginning of this 10 minutes. And we note initially that our submission was made nearly a month ago. And since then, of course, there has been the commitment to the pre-feasibility study for a multi-purpose arena, and that's an important step, and our submission finishes with the plea to get the business case underway. Well, clearly events have moved positively from our perspective in that space. Christchurch has had an outdoor arena for well over 100 years, and that was Lancaster Park. Lancaster Park was, of course, a multi-purpose venue in its own right, and the history of Lancaster Park is a very storied one and had an extraordinary array of community events over its life. It was insured. It was damaged through no fault of anybody's in the earthquakes, but the insurance claim has been settled. Payment has been made.
Sorry, excuse me for just laughing a little bit, but
right.
I mean the settlement is
that
not comparable to the amount it was insured for.
Indeed not.
Yeah.
But has been settled, and my point is that of the things that have been legitimate issues and impediments to dealing with the future, some of them are now gone. And my point really is that the insurance claim has been settled for better or for worse. Lancaster Park has been deemed irreparable, and therefore we are now at the point where the future outdoor arena for the city is legitimately needs to be decided. We'd also like to make the point that we do sit here in a sense representing a very big silent majority, and while a number of people express a counter view, the research that we conducted showed 94% of the citizens of the city think it is important for Christchurch to host a variety of large-scale national and international events. So that 94%. So you can argue about margin of error and how many people were spoken to, etc., etc. But as councillors, I'm sure you understand that's a very big number that supports a facility. 91% believe Christchurch needs a modern, mixed-use outdoor event centre. It is true that 61% have wanted a new venue and 28 would have preferred Lancaster Park to be repaired, but that issue has been dealt with. So there's a vast number of the citizens of the city who want this matter dealt with. We would also like to emphasise that our support is and has always been for a multi-purpose arena. Just as Lancaster Park hosted a wide array of community events, our support is for a multi-purpose arena, and we will be but one user, hopefully an anchor tenant, paying an agreed commercial rental, but only one of many users. I'd just like to conclude these very brief comments in support of our submission to also emphasise our offer to support. So any part of the process around the feasibility work, around design, around how a lease and operating arrangements might work into the future, we stand ready to work with decision makers like the council to help make that process go well. Thank you, Your Worship.
If I may just add one or two comments, and Hamish has already stated it, but we've been very public in our stance, I suppose, that we'll do everything that we can as an organisation, that is Crusaders as a rugby organisation, to do what we can to help and support any business case work and come up with a model that will work well for our city. There's no question that the Crusaders brand, the Crusaders rugby team does its bit to help gel the city and help gel the supporters of our region. We're sure that in the future we'll continue to make the team work well, do what it can to continue to actually get people to come along to whatever multi-purpose arena or ground they're playing in. We've been really grateful for what we've had with the temporary stadium, but we all know how difficult it is to live in a temporary environment for too long without starting to have issues inside your business. We've got a really healthy future. We've made some changes in our organisation to hopefully have a brighter future for the Crusaders and the supporters that we have out there. A new multi-purpose arena, sometime planned in the future, will give us a bit of surety that we can continue to keep developing our business as well as our rugby team to enable us to continue that support to widen and grow as well. It's pretty important to the people of Christchurch that we have something to look forward to, and the Crusaders have been helping that, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years. And as I say, really grateful for what we've had, but really looking forward to working with the council and the government and whoever can help us with regard to a new arena for our team to play in.
Thank you. My question really goes back to the cost-sharing agreement arrangements, because the thing that kind of worries me always is the level of expectation that's been built in the public mind. I mean, I could get a 95% result on a survey if I didn't tell people that it would cost them X amount in rates or X amount in capital, and it would have an impact on their rates bill and their children's rates bill and their children's rates bill. But so these things are not, they don't come without a price.
Sure.
And I guess that was my little chip on the insurance, is that we were disappointed in terms of the, what we were able to obtain, but there were a number of challenging issues, not least of which the fact that land had been allocated for a stadium to be built elsewhere. When you're trying to negotiate over technical issues such as steel strain.
Yeah.
So the thing that worries me is that there's an expectation that the $253 million that we have on our books will be sufficient to meet what people believe will be a 35,000 seat indoor enclosed arena, when in fact the cost sharing agreement shows that that's not possible to be achieved for $253 million. There's an expectation that a sum of money will come in from the private sector. So that's why the pre-feasibility isn't so much about the nth degree business case, it's about how do you make this not a burden on the people of Christchurch forever and ever.
Yeah, and that's we understand that statement. It makes perfectly good sense to us. Where we've, I guess, been stuck, if that's the right word, has been that conversation has been really hard to have.
Yeah.
Because it's been trapped in this is this is not needed, or this is not necessary, or this is extravagant, or you can do without it, or look what you've got out there anyway, and just pushing the whole thing away. I think it's entirely legitimate to have a proper conversation about what cost and what it looks like and what other things should be in there to help the financial model work. But we're really open about that conversation rather than tucking all that away inside the sort of the pushing the project out of the way.
Yeah,
so we get that.
And what that will do is that because we've pushed it out in our LTP, it will be an LTP conversation to bring it forward.
Yeah.
And that will enable us to have that conversation with the people of Christchurch in a very explicit way.
Perfect. And
we will know what those costs really are.
Yeah.
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 Yanni, then Tim.
Thank you, and thank you for the submission. I was going to ask about, when in your survey, whether you'd asked people what their priorities were for the city rather than just the stadium, but I think the Mayor's already touched a little bit on that. So I guess at a high level, the government was supposed to do the business case, so that's beyond our control. That was what was in the cost share. They haven't done it.
No, but that's because we pushed it out in the long-term
there's
plan,
nothing,
Yanni.
as I understand it, that was stopping the government from doing that work.
We pushed it out.
So
30th of June 2016, we'd have pushed it out in 2015.
So anyway, we were told we would get briefings. We never got briefings.
Yeah.
Things have happened, but I can't see what stops us having the conversation now. And I guess I was interested to know, in terms of the future of professional sports, which does seem to be the kind of bigger issue in terms of a city and in terms of the ratepayers, where do you see professional sports going with sort of declining attendance, declining TV,
So there's some myths already.
And raising salaries.
So TV for rugby is not declining. Right. Attendance is not declining. But do you want me to predict 30 or 50 years' time? I don't know quite how to do that. What I do know is that sport in general, and professional sport is only one little piece of sport, so it's the tip of the iceberg, if you like, is still a very, very important part of many people's lives. And I foresee that it will continue to be so. And that's just the sport. And if you think about a multi-purpose arena that might attract concerts and exhibitions and other community events, and I'd urge you perhaps to read the history of Lancaster Park. And it isn't just about sport. It's about a community gathering place of a size that attracts particular events that otherwise wouldn't be there. And so the future of sport, I think, is secure in our psyche, whether it ebbs between one sport and another, whether you have lean years and then great years, all of that is probably true, but none of it can be celebrated properly if you haven't got the platform to do it.
Yeah, my question was really around, there seems to be an increasing demand on ratepayers to subsidise professional sports. We're getting into bidding wars with other cities around New Zealand, and it doesn't seem very sustainable from a financial point of view. Now, maybe those things that you've said are true, but the reality for us as the public purse is we seem to be getting increased requests for funding to subsidise professional sports.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I have to
I
take
think
that
that's what Yanni's
if I may
referring
make
to.
a
Is
comment, I
if
don't
we
think-
want the All Blacks to play here, it costs.
Yes, but it does.
But
that's right.
perhaps it costs at the moment because we've got a temporary little stadium.
No. The
across
bidding
New Zealand.
war that goes on between different venues. So we'll be in competition with Dunedin.
Yeah.
We'll be in. I mean, they've missed out too. But in terms of the cost and professional sport, and it's not just rugby union. Rugby league's the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
all
of them. They're professional sports, and they get us to bid against each other as cities and regions.
That's right.
And build bigger and bigger stadiums, because otherwise they won't come. And it just seems to me that there's a really fundamental question around the sustainability or the financial model of professional sports.
Which is why we want this pre-feasibility to kind of address a number of these issues. I heard the Minister say very explicitly that he does not want to see this, as the former Minister, as a burden on the ratepayers of Christchurch. I am of one mind with the Minister on that, because
Yes.
I do not want to go out and promote a burden on the ratepayers of Christchurch.
And I think around the world there are some fantastic models where arenas or stadia have other facilities attached to them that help with the financial model, and you can just look just Google it, and there's just anything you can think of that's attached to the Stadia build.
Hotels,
Sports shopping
academies,
malls, retail,
shopping malls.
hospitality. There's just so in our submission we've said it's rightly, in my view, that the council should be deciding what that part of the city most needs in terms of other facilities, and then you can easily put that with an arena build and get the benefits of that to mitigate the costs that would otherwise flow.
That's what we're asking the trust to do. Tim.
Thank you. Just a very simple question. As you guys are clients or users of the temporary stadium, because I see it from the other side, what do you think its lifespan is as it is? Because we know the costs are rising, etc.
Look, to be absolutely honest, I don't think I can sit in the council chamber and answer that question. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what work's already being done on that. We hear all the same things in the community that I'm sure you all hear as you move around. All sorts of dates get quoted quite merrily. I don't know what is true. What we do know is that the maintenance costs are on an exponential curve upwards. And as you would expect with a temporary facility, it's starting to cost a lot to keep it open.
In more ways than one, but thank you very much.
One thing that we've done, just to add to that for you too, Tim, is that we've said that we'll work as close as we can with the current stadium trust to help make the business for them in terms of that temporary stadium work for us. So we're on a temporary arrangement with them, but we're going to look to put in place a more commercial arrangement going forward that ensures that we can do our bit to help mitigate that cost going forward in the interim while the business case and then maybe plans for the new arena are put in place. So we don't want that to fall over. It's critical for our business as well. It's critical for our community to have it, and we'll do our bit to make sure we can keep it going where we can.
And that's why that pre-feasibility is so important, to have all the parties involved.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And again, we'll commit to
And if the
helping out with
Crusaders
that.
keep paying the way that they are, I think
Well,
we have no trouble
we'd like to promise
promise
that. We can't promise
We'll be
that,
doing
but
all we can.
That's right.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's much appreciated.
Thank you for your time.
Could I invite the Multi-Purpose Arena Trust, Barry Meister, and Stuart Mitchell? I don't know if Stu's...
I'm not Stuart, so it's Natalie.
You're neither.
Mayor, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to submit to you, and a good opportunity to follow on from Hamish and Grant, because much of what they were saying, we are saying perhaps in a different language and a different tone, but philosophically we are absolutely in support of the submission that they have made. Could I just introduce myself, Barry Meister, the chair of the Multi-Purpose Arena Trust. We have a group of trustees, many of which are here tonight, Jeff Saunders, Stuart Mitchell, Natalie Thane, Malcolm Hudson, David Kennedy and Tom Craig, who's our advisor. And that group is a group of passionate, vibrant Cantabrians who have set about the task of establishing that we work with central government and local government to help develop a major event strategy for Christchurch, which includes as its core component the multi-purpose arena, which we're focused on. We envisage, as you've already indicated, a high-tech facility, a covered facility, a landmark facility as an anchor project for the east frame of Christchurch, incorporating several elements which we see you will determine needed for the city. We have a wide range of local stakeholders who have either approached or have come to us. We do not represent them here tonight, but we are the group de facto that they have come to us and indicated strong support, and that includes sports groups, hospitality sector, facility management groups, cultural groups, commercial interests and the like, all of whom have been in touch with our group to indicate support for what we're doing. We make this submission tonight with a mixture of anxiety and optimism. Anxiety in the thought that the temporary stadium might outlive its temporary life before we have a multi-purpose arena in place, leaving our city without a major events facility. And that means being left behind, which concerns us. But we're optimistic in the sense that the recent announcement about the pre-feasibility study, together with the published comment from the council, that you will look at moving this timeline forward. Our trust is already met with the key leaders of the feasibility group, and we have committed our full support, our sharing of what we have, the contacts that we have built up, so that it's a seamless operation. We are right behind the work that they do, and I want to be seen to be supporting it. We appreciate that you as a council have had lots of different needs over the last 6 years, and you've prioritised those, and we respect that and we understand that fully. But we also want you to understand that the time frame to build this facility, as we understand it, would be perhaps 4 to 5 years. From go to completion would be 4 to 5 years, and that takes us out to 2021 at the earliest before we could even have this multi-purpose facility. And that is very likely that by that stage the temporary facility will have outlived its temporary life. And so there is a potential for that period of time when we don't have a facility. And while there's a cost of building, there's also a cost of not having a facility for Christchurch. You will have read, as I have, about the Ed Sheeran concert in Dunedin in the last week, attracting 70 to 80,000 people over a 2-night gig. We want to ensure that Christchurch is the major event capital of the South Island, if not New Zealand. We are fortunate, we believe, that we have a inspired piece of land purchased by the government in the East Frame, which sits logically, waiting for development to occur. I, in my work with major events groups in New Zealand, Major Events New Zealand, so I can look around the country and I can see cities that are investing significantly in their major event strategies. And we surely, as Christchurch and as Canterbury, as a region, want to ensure that we are part of that major event strategy, which is growing momentum as people are seeing increasingly the value of major events for their cities. And we are keen to contribute to that. We would like to show you a brief video. This video was put together prior to the feasibility study being commissioned, and it was very much put forward as a concept, as a thought provoker, as a catalyst generator for ideas. The things that you will see in this video are neither costed nor researched. We didn't intend to do that. It is not our role. But we wanted to start a conversation with Christchurch people, which you may be able to use in your discussion process, to say, hey, these things are possible. They may not be the priorities for the city, and therefore they may be abandoned. But there are things in here that we think will stimulate discussion as a catalyst for what we're about. And we'd like to now show the video to you. And Natalie will talk through the video and outline some of the features of it as we go through. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Should we dim the lights?
Christchurch is in the unique and exciting position of delivering a truly urban community multi-purpose hub, a people place. A place that goes beyond a singular sports-centric iconic build to one that literally and metaphorically engages with all the people of Christchurch and the South Island. To be truly multi-purpose, the engagement should incorporate corporate and social spaces that can be utilised 7 days a week. A design to be used to host sports and non-sport related events, providing vibrant and active gathering spaces. A mixed-use development has the opportunity to influence the city's thinking at both a macro and micro level, addressing architecture, urban planning, landscape and transport. A design specifically with the local community in mind to introduce commercial and entertainment benefits. A world-class venue will help improve the competitive position of Canterbury and the Northern South Island when attracting major events to the city, both sporting and non-sporting. A carnival atmosphere before and after live events. Exhibition spaces can easily be converted for markets, food stands, fan zones, merchandise stalls, a place where family and friends can gather. Planning for a truly multi-purpose arena will give Christchurch the opportunity to revive and become an exciting amalgam of engagement, dialogue, planning that sets a benchmark for understanding and delivering a unique and iconic statement for the city. Thank you.
Could I say that the video was produced through our own fundraising, not through any other sponsorship, and we understand it's well known that stadia per se in themselves don't generate income. But what I hope we've given you a sample of is that if you took any number of those catalyst ideas up there and thought they fitted with the long-term plan for the city, that it could become closer to a break-even enterprise. We have no evidence of that, but we're putting the ideas up which need to be investigated in the next stage, which is what we intend to do. So in conclusion, we want to ask you three things, or ask for a council thing, three things. First of all, we would like a philosophical and a funding commitment to a multi-purpose arena for Christchurch. The second one we would like is an appreciation that this facility needs to be started as soon as possible because of the timeline that's referred to and the cost to the city of not having a major events facility for a period of time if we don't start immediately. And the third one is an understanding that our trust will continue to work as a group of passionate, enthusiastic Cantabrians to promote ideas, to share what we have, to work with those who are making the decisions, and to represent people that come to us and to put those ideas into the mix so that we can ensure that Christchurch remains the event capital for the South Island at least, if not New Zealand. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I will ask Glenn, but I just want to highlight one thing in your submission, paragraph 12. In the original cost-sharing agreement, the council committed to half the cost of the new stadium, $253 million. Central government have committed the same. That isn't accurate. Central government have not committed $253 million to the stadium. They've committed to provide the land should we not be in a position to meet the business case, which is yet to be done, of meeting their requirements over a closed stadium. So, and we haven't committed to half the cost. Our costs are capped at 253 if the first option is chosen, which is the covered one. So I just remind people, I think, and that's what worries me, is that people's expectations have been put way up here and we're now left with the really hard decisions. We can only bring it forward on our LTP after a special consultative procedure, which is the long-term plan process. And that's the purpose of the work that the Stadium Trust are doing in terms of the pre-feasibility, which is to look at those options. How can we make this pay for itself so that we can achieve the objective without going across that line, or even getting underneath that line would be my personal preference. Glenn.
Thank you, Barry. Just to be bad cop for a minute, I note, so the big day arrives, a Lions tour, as rare as hen's teeth. The Crusaders have a covered stadium. The Highlanders have a covered stadium, but they end up with a match of the Highlanders versus Lions. We have a temporary stadium, we have Crusaders versus Lions. There's no guarantee that we could end up with the big matches, is there, just because we have a covered stadium?
Absolutely not, and it's not for me to make that judgment anyway. But if you go to England, all of the test matches seem to be played at Twickenham, so they don't spread them around the country. So that's a possible scenario for the future. But surely our task as Cantabrians is to give ourselves the best chance of major events, including rugby tests. I don't know whether we would stand up if we had a 35,000 stadium, whether that would be sufficient. I don't know the answer to that, but it gives ourselves a shot of being in there. I suggest that our current stadium does not do that.
Okay, and I haven't seen, and I'm sure the Trust will come up with it, I haven't actually seen any specifics over the deterioration of the current stadium. I can take it at face value, I can see the rust, and research first the paper. I can't find the paper, I can find the Dunedin study done by that company, but I can't find the paper, and also note the sample isn't even 1,000 people, so I'd want a bigger sample just to give it greater validity in terms of a survey. But
So which survey are you referring to?
this is the survey that you referred to in your submission.
Okay,
which,
yeah. So, I mean, obviously, since that survey was instigated and the establishment of our trust, which has only formally taken place at the beginning of this year, we've built up quite a wide number of stakeholders and will continue to grow that.
Right.
And that will certainly be a vehicle, I think, going forward that will be useful for the council.
Points taken.
Yep. Anything else? All good? David?
We've heard from the Mayor the position on funding. 253 million's our cap. In any of your preliminary work, and you talked earlier of interest from a number of groups, is there any sort of indication of investment, private investment, that may come forward out of those discussions?
No, we haven't put that proposition to people. We haven't been working with them on that basis. We've been establishing a need.
Establishing a need, but in that sort of conversation, do you get the feeling that there is a willingness of some groups to perhaps invest?
Absolutely, absolutely. And from outside interests and overseas interests.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And can I say that we also do accept, Mayor, your comment about the government funding. We do actually understand that post our submission, we do understand that position.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's great. And great video too. Kennedy's Bush Road Neighbourhood Association. Kennedy's Bush Road Neighbourhood Association. Sylvia Lukey. Not here. Haven't checked in either. Diamond Harbour Community Association, Richard Suggett. It's on page 30. Welcome.
Right, thank you. Kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to our submission on the annual plan, going from the big project to the smaller community issues. Anyway, we'll see what we can do to keep you interested for the next 10 minutes. The first part of our submission addresses the what I saw as being, or we saw as being in the draft plan, and I'll just highlight a few things in there that are of more interest than others, but just overall just to say that we're always grateful that there is that money coming towards the southern bays, so we're supportive of those sort of allocations. The first one's a head-to-head walkway. We don't seem to be able to get much clarity as to where the next piece of work is to be. We understood that there was work to be done between the very damaged track between Charteris Bay and Purao, but we'd really like to know is that money coming to do that or some other piece of the harbour. Very supportive of the continuing investment in the wastewater Littleton Harbour project to get the wastewater out of Littleton Harbour, and very pleased that the council's made steady progress with that. Just a slight question mark over the Farrow Avenue wastewater articulation. That's 689,000 in the coming year, and then a further big chunk of money. We don't know what that's for, and as I live in Farrow Avenue, I'm actually quite curious as to why a very large amount of money is being spent on our wastewater there. Two other items just down the bottom, just in terms of the track and signage work. Very pleased to have that set aside. That relates to delayed work that's in the Stoddard Point Reserve Management Plan that we really haven't had any funding over the last few years, so it's good to see some money coming through there. Now, actually what I did mean to do was mean to start my presentation by just congratulating the council on what it has done in Diamond Harbour in the last year, And the two most significant things that it's done is actually renovated the community hall at considerable expense and renovated the historic Stoddard cottage, and both of those have been reopened, and so the community is very grateful that the earthquake renovations and other upgrades have been done. So very big tick to the council's work in the last year. The next section relates to that Stoddard Point and Coastal Reserves Management Plan that hasn't had a lot of funding and effort in recent years, but overall, pleased to see that those items I've listed there, some of those are actually now starting to be indicated as being actioned under the allocation in the draft plan. Point 4, that's to do with actually green waste in Diamond Harbour. It's a long way for people to take their green waste around from the southern bays to the transfer stations in Christchurch. We have in the past, there was council financial support for a subsidy for chipping, and last year we went to the community board to get a subsidy and got some contribution there. We'd really like to see that continued in the interim until such time as perhaps the council came on board, the waste management people in the council came on board and talked with locals and possibly like some organisation like the Orton Bradley Trust, whether or not there could be some kind of small composting facility put in somewhere in the southern bays. But in the interim, really, if you don't have something like chipping to reduce the amount of green waste, you tend to get a lot of it thrown over the edges into council reserves. That's the reality. Point 5, Godley House site planning. Now, I'd like to thank the contribution of the council planners to assisting the community with the preparation of a community action plan. There was a 5-year effort to achieve that. We have a document that's been finalised. It sets out 10 priorities for the community, and we're working through those with the council. So we have a completed document. At some stage, I hope the community board formally actually puts that in front of the council. The other project we've been working on with the council planners is actually the preparation of a concept plan for the whole area, and we definitely want to see that put in front of the whole council. And we've made very good progress. We're getting to the point now with the final draft of that and putting that to the community board. And there's been a lot of community consultation. Once again, it's a 5-year post-earthquake effort, a bit like the Littleton consultation process, the Sumner consultation process, the Little River consultation process, and it's been very much driven by an enormous amount of community effort with support from council staff, and we'd very much like to talk to the council about the final product. And the project that's come out of that's of most importance to us next, having made this good progress on the planning, is something to be done about the Godley House site. So we'd like to further engage with the council on that. We think that the site does deserve something. It was obviously an important facility for the council and historic resource. We'd like the site which we hold temporary concerts on to have a multi-purpose facility, not necessarily massive, but something that can incorporate indoor and outdoor concert facilities and the temporary cafe that we've now got sort of parked in some containers to the side of it. But we will certainly be pushing in the next year for that to be the next project we'd like the council to work with us on. And the last point was just acknowledging the great work that the council has done and the contractors to upgrade the community hall, which is very heavily used for various community sporting and cultural activities. And there's a bit more work still to be done in that, whether it'll be done this next financial year or later, we're not sure, but there's still accepted by the council staff we've been dealing with that the toilets in the foyer area still needs further work. So that's my sort of articulation of what is on our minds. Just left you some time for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, I have to say that I always look forward to these submissions, you know, because they're genuinely from the community. They've not, and they're very, it's not about coming to the council and saying, do this, do this, do this. It's what we can do together. And it just, it does hearten me, I have to say. Very collaborative. I think we'll be able to answer some of your questions in our response to your submission. I mean, obviously I can't tell you what bit of the head-to-head's being progressed through this particular funding. Andrew probably knows it because he knows everything off by heart in his ward. So we'll be able to answer all those questions. But I really picked up also that you want a little bit better communication around some of the projects that we have on budget in your area, and that you as an association would be more than happy to distribute them and organise for engagements to discuss them if people wanted to raise issues. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes we get really good engagement, prior engagement, and sometimes things arrive out of the blue.
Right.
Yeah.
But mystifying.
And sometimes it's sort of relayed to the community board, but then doesn't filter down to us. So,
okay. Yeah. Pauline, David.
So just on that, I know you're running on the smell of an oily rag, but you mentioned operational money. You haven't actually asked for any, but I was just wondering, do you have any idea of what would help?
Was this in relation to the Reserve Management Committee?
Yes. That you have.
Yes. They certainly need at least a few $1,000s to essentially buy essential equipment and to...
2,000 or 20,000?
No, something like $2,000 will keep them going, because actually the reserve staff have actually been very good in terms of a specific request for work to be done on the ground, managing to find things within their budget. I think I've got a suspicion this might actually have been possibly dealt with. There might have been a decision to actually put something to a pot for the reserve committees, the Banks Winter Reserve committees.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
But we'll certainly follow up on that.
Yeah.
David, did you?
No, look, I just wanted to reinforce that comment about communication with the local residents. It was evident today in our bus trip around the coastal and Burwood wards, where there was the odd project that, and I'm not being critical of staff, I realise there's a huge number of projects going on around the city, but it appears that the odd one is slipping through the cracks in terms of local communities not finding out about things until they just actually happen.
Yeah. But I think that's something that we're all very, very conscious of, is the need to engage communities in a better way, in terms of what's going on. Andrew?
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed for the submission. The item 5, Godly House site planning, I'm assuming that the community wants to work in partnership with the council on this so that we get the best result. How do you see this panning out moving forward? How would the Diamond Harbour community like to work with the council in order to deliver something that really works in the long term for that Godly House site?
Well, probably you go back some 5 years now, the year after the earthquake, we had a share an idea session in the community, a very strong one, and a lot of ideas came out, and they've actually been incorporated into the planning document that I'm referring to for exactly for the site. Now, the idea is to actually pare those ideas down to those that are realistic, capable of achieving in some form of budget, with also possibly a private partnership if we're talking about a cafe, and working with council, making some sort of commitment to actually doing something. So for the last 6 years, the council has carefully avoided the subject where they're prepared to put any of that insurance money that they got for Godly House site actually back into doing something on the site. And so this plan that we prepared with council staff has a blank spot in it called Godly House site. So we want to see the blank spot filled up, or otherwise the council to come to us and say, in the end, well, we're just not going to put anything there and suck it up. But we're not really getting any communication engagement. We haven't over the last 5 years on the matter, except for the fact that actually we have received notice that there is a conservation report, a historic conservation report on the site about to be presented to the community in the next 2 months. We've been approached by the community governance people to help set up a meeting about that. So we're all, very happy to engage, very happy to put forward the ideas we've been working with, and it's just a matter of engagement. Yep.
Thank you. Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and coming in this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now, the Peter Townsend, I understand you're here on behalf of the Christchurch Children's Christmas Parade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and greetings everybody. Yes, I am. I'm Peter Townsend, Chief Executive of the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, and the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce is a trustee of the Christchurch Children's Christmas Parade Trust. I'm here for a really simple request here tonight. I'm here to put certainty into the Christmas parade. We're going to need your help, your ongoing help, in the context of what has been a long and truly collaborative relationship to ensure that the finances are available for the Trust for the next 2 years. The Christmas parade, as you will have seen from the submission, has been in existence for 71 years, and for the last 26 years, the Christchurch City Council has financially supported the Christmas parade through the auspices of a trust. And there are people around here that have assisted us all the way through that journey, and there are people here that have been here right from the beginning of the transition of the Christmas parade being a completely council-controlled entity right through to running as a independent trust. The problem we've got is that the trust has 40 floats, it has over 1,000 costumes, and it has to house those throughout the year. It also is involved in traffic management and has various pieces of plant that have to be stored. That has a total cost of about 121,000 a year. The total cost of the parade is about $200,000 a year. And that parade is driven totally by voluntary commitment apart from the council's ongoing support. From 2013 to 2015, the council supported $97,750 per year. 2016, that dropped to $69,000, and at the moment there is an application in front of the council for $100,000 this year. What we would like to see is $100,000 locked in this coming year, and the following year, and we see that as absolutely critical to ensure that the parade can continue. Without that support, the parade will not be there after 71 years. So the funds requested post-December 2018 are likely to be markedly reduced because the Trust has recently had access to a property that at a minimal cost can house the floats and the costumes, which obviously saves the thick end of $100,000. And that property is the New Zealand School of Gymnastics. So in short, we need council support with effect from the beginning of July 2017, and this trust needs the cash. It needs it quickly. Cash flow is tight and support is critical. It is an iconic event, and it's an event that will require the council's support for the next 2 years. Really hard to imagine Christchurch without its Christmas parade. It's an integral part of our city. It's one of the iconic events. It attracts over 100,000 attendees, 2,500 participants, 500 volunteers. The whole thing is driven by voluntary input and voluntary contribution by well-meaning people in our community. And of course it has a really strong focus on family and children. The parade does need certainty. The council is the only entity that can provide that certainty. And as I said, in short, we're asking for support to be locked in 2017, 2018, $100,000, 2018, 2019, $100,000. From December 2018, after that parade, we are quite confident that we'll be able to markedly reduce council dependency. Absolutely important that the council makes this commitment to ensure the vitality and the continuity of the parade. Thank you.
I was looking at this and I couldn't see where all your sponsorships are. I mean, I can see Main Freight produces in kind, and I presume we're producing the traffic management in kind, are we?
Well, historically part of the council contribution has been to contribute to the traffic management. The total cost of traffic management and the storage of the floats and things is about $121,000 a year.
Yeah, what I was gobsmacked about was the cost of storage. I didn't realise that what we were paying for was the cost of storage, and I think the people of Christchurch would be surprised that that was the cost. You know,
yeah. And it's a high cost and it needs to be resolved, and we hope that from December 2018 it will be.
Yeah, and I know that Councillor East raised this the other day, that there looked like to be a win-win outcome as far as that's concerned.
There have been various options looked at alternatives for storage, including some council-owned properties, but none of those have come to fruition. But we look as if now it looks as if we've got a solution. What we haven't got is the funding to see us through to having that solution realised.
And there's no sponsorship available?
Yeah, there's sponsorship, but the council has always been there to support the children's parade. It is seen to be
to care and share and let other people contribute.
It's always seen to be a council event, and actually that doesn't
help. No, it wasn't. It was a Hayes event.
And then it moved into being a council event, and then it dropped out of being a council event. The problem we've got is that it's seen to be a council event, whether or not it is or it isn't. It's seen to be the Christchurch City Council as the key instigator of the Christmas parade, and that makes it quite difficult for private sponsorship. if we dropped off council support, there is no way this parade will continue.
No, I'm not suggesting that we should drop it off. So I asked that this come forward as a proposal that we make it a line item, and this is not a proposal to make it a line item. It's actually a better proposal. It's to give it, secure the funding for 2 years, so that this other purchase can be made. And the problem that was confronting us as a new council was that the Events and Festivals Fund has a finite sum in it, and the numbers of people seeking to have their events and festivals supported by the Christchurch City Council far outweighed the amount of money that was in there. And so the Santa Parade felt the effects of that when we reduced the amount that was claimed or sought last time. And the only way that I could see beyond that was to line item it. But
So it's a total cost of $200,000 a year, of which we're looking for 50% support from the council.
Right.
Peter, with the events and festivals funding, we get more and more pressure, as you know, every year. Just like any other group, it's harder and harder to get sponsorship. But with the expertise available to the Chamber, ourselves and the Trust, there must be a way for us all to work together to try and improve or help or assist or look for benefits with regards to further sponsorship. So I know that, some can see the council as, the City Council as being, as you just mentioned, hard for sponsors to get in, but others see it as a real positive. So there must be a way around there.
Sure.
We'd be prepared to talk to the Chamber about sponsorship opportunities.
The Chamber's in-kind commitment to this event is very significant.
I know.
And you're right, but they've tried really hard to get this thing financially independent, and we think we've got the answer in December 2018 to markedly reduce the cost. $80,000-$90,000 a year reduction in costs would mean that we wouldn't be coming cap in hand to the council. What we've got is not a line item request, as the Mayor has pointed out. It is a 2-year request for $100,000 a year to give this thing certainty. And the other option is untenable. The other option is that it stops. This trust runs out of money in July this year.
Okay.
Vicky and then Phil. Vicky, Phil.
So this actually comes to the committee on Wednesday. So are you suggesting 100, and then what's year 3?
Year 3 is not well. If we can land this new accommodation, that saves us $90,000 a year. So year three, we're not asking for anything. What we're asking for is we're $100,000 for the next 2 years.
Right. So year 3, you don't want anything.
Not at this stage.
Right,
I'm almost certain if this goes through.
Clearly, okay.
Sorry?
And just in terms of where the parade goes, because it's currently down Rickerton Road, are you intending to bring it back into town?
Yeah, it would be great to have it back into town, but I don't think that's under our control. I think it's under yours.
Is it? Are you okay if it is under our control?
Is that right? The chairperson says if we can get back to town, we'd surely love to get back to town. So yeah,
that's certainly something that we can ask staff to report back on. Phil?
Thanks, Peter. I'm just wondering, in fact, if the Christmas parade has really become sort of like almost a victim of its own success, in that as a parent and now grandparent, I've got, like everybody else in Christchurch, have gone along for many years, and it's got much, much bigger. And I guess a really nice component in recent years has been the multicultural aspect, where all the different cultures have their own floats. And I'm just wondering, has that all sort of increased the cost in terms of, for example, things like traffic management and
traffic management costs have increased, but of the total traffic management is about $16,000 a year. That's an expensive thing, but the overall cost hasn't increased. In fact, it's converse, because the more people we can get involved, the more volunteers we can get involved, the more support we can get, the more people that will sponsor in kind various parts of it. So it's not a victim of its own success. It is an extraordinarily successful parade, which runs on, as I'm quoting the submitters, the smell of an oily rag, huge voluntary commitment, people doing an enormous amount of work just because they believe in the parade, and it just needs to get through these next 2 years. It just needs to get through this patch, and as I said, it's untenable to think that it wouldn't.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions? No, that's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron.
The next is the Inglefield Residents Association. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Orinka Britnell, and this is Robin Kilty, a committee member, and we're here today on behalf of the Inglefield Residents Association, a neighbourhood group that is passionate about heritage buildings and places. We also connect to the Otakaro Avon River, and we're the first group to consult the tangata whenua about protection of the riverbank from traffic in our area, and also to identify Maori heritage sites in our area under former Mayor Vicky Buck. It was Bill Karaitiana who made the submission to the council in 1992, not long after the Christchurch City Council 1991 policy to consult with local Maori. I would like to acknowledge and thank Councillor Dion Swiggs, who came to an Inglefield committee meeting recently to assist us understand the draft annual city plan. Thank you. That was really helpful. The main points we wish to remind the council are, if we're serious about saving our heritage, the council needs to put a lot more financial and educational effort in. Where are the SAMs, the special amenity areas, and why not more council policy on protection of heritage areas? Some of our area is recognised by the Historic Places Trust, but meaningless without teeth. We want to see heritage trees put back on the council listing, not taken off. Why were they removed? There should be an audit of our heritage and natural environment. It has value. We have an agreement with the council for heritage willows to be replaced with willows in our area. One needs replacing by Fitzgerald Avenue and Avonside Drive, and another by Hamner Street. Why are the 185 trees along River Road coming out? And there have been some badly hacked trees. We're not sure by who, but there's some photos. We also have concerns about the increase of traffic on Avonside Drive, and fear traffic will divert down there if through access is closed off at Worcester Street at Fitzgerald Avenue. A jetty was promised by the council many years ago in an out-of-environment court settlement. We're still waiting for the council to honour this agreement. In the Red Zone regeneration plan, we note there is no mention about the more recent heritage of the area. We would like to see a heritage trail through here, reminding us of the styles of homes and preserving as much of the original trees and gardens as possible. I'm just making points here. Pedestrians and cycles on the same path are an unsafe mix. We see east side neglect and want to see more effort to save the traditional shops of Linwood Village, with one of the best butcher shops around for miles, among the other interesting and necessary amenities of the area. The shops have been reduced to half and shrinking. This is also a heritage area in its own right, and it would be a tragic loss to the ageing, ailing, lower socio-economic community of this area. We hope our presentation will assist you to make positive decisions for our area and the city. And in closing, Robin would like to say about the cathedral.
Well, we'd like to see the cathedral saved. The church may own it, but the ratepayers, stakeholders, ratepayers have contributed to the maintenance for many, many years.
So that was just our few points about to assist you to have a bit of a vision for our area. There's no specific budget requirements, but we'd like to see more money put into heritage.
And more enthusiasm.
We're very enthusiastic. Pauline.
A wee query about the jetty. Where's that plan to go? I hadn't heard of that.
Well, quite a few years ago, probably about, I don't know, I haven't actually got this. We had it was around the year 2001, and there was an out-of-court environment settlement out of Environment Court settlement, that one of the things that we could get would be a jetty down close to the maybe Stanmore Road Bridge, on the other side on River Road, and the idea was for tourists or anybody to be able to come down the river and on the punting boats or something like that, and be able to land and walk around on the heritage trail of our area, which has got the Heritage Rose Garden in Beverley Park. Well, unfortunately, the historic Trinity Church fell over in the earthquakes, but it's still got the little hall there and the graveyard and a lot of the heritage and history around the area. So
it's a very historical area.
And people, there are walking tours that come through there, and Robin actually hosts a lot of
walking and garden tours in that area.
Right.
And people who are interested in the old worker cottages in Hanmer and Gilby and Haas Street.
Right, thank you. That would be awesome.
Dion.
Thank you for coming along. It's good to hear, and good to raise those points. But could you just let us know a little bit about what you're worried about with the Worcester Street closing for your neighbourhood?
Just we think that it will probably push more traffic coming down Avonside Drive as a diversion. It'll be going down Worcester Street, but we noticed an increase in traffic on Avonside Drive once Latimer Square was closed, and it's used, and probably, and because we live in Hamner Street, and you can see it bumper to bumper there at night and in the morning already. So I don't know, but we're just saying. And originally, when we consulted with Tangata Whenua in 1992, they also were concerned about the impact of too much traffic on the riverbank.
On the riverbank, yes,
because it's a very narrow riverbank there. So, that's the specific concerns about traffic coming into our area.
Yep. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Michael Britnell.
Afternoon. Now, basically, I'm just going to talk for a few minutes. Major concern is the shopping centre known as the Linwood Village on the corner of Worcester Street and Stanmore Road. There's a cycleway being put down the road, and there is concern about loss of car parks and this sort of thing, but the major concern is the imminent closing of Worcester Street at Fitzgerald Ave to traffic going up and down Worcester Street. So this is cutting off access to the one-way system. So anybody wanting to get onto the one-way or come off the one-way, go down there. As the previous submitters have said, this traffic is now going to be pushed onto the adjacent streets, either Hereford, Gloucester, Armagh or Avonside Drive. And the loss of that traffic to the village is going to mean the demise of the village. At the moment, our concern is the survival. If that can be achieved, then there is the revival prospect. Originally, they did have a Linwood Village plan they looked at putting together. Without much thought, that seems to have been overlaid by the cycleway plan, which just wipes out any idea of the previous plan for the survival of the village, because if we haven't got, dare I say, if we haven't got cars going up there, well, if we haven't got the shoppers, it only takes 1 or 2% knocked off the top of any of those businesses to put them out of business. It's as simple as that. Previous speaker talked about the butcher shop. She was in there the other day. They're shaky, wondering what to do. Most of the other businesses in there are operated by new arrivals to New Zealand, immigrants, from various places. Not all of them are totally au fait with how the system works, or maybe have some language difficulties, so they haven't necessarily been able to get involved in the process of what's going on in their area totally. They haven't been consulted properly. The consultation process is totally, I don't know if you call it inept or planned to fail, on our behalf anyway, because it was non-existent. I myself run a couple of businesses in Worcester Street at the other end. No consultation came to us. The consultation decision was to stop the consultation process at the intersection before us, so the last block wasn't even told what was going on. Didn't concern us apparently, though according to the Act anybody who is to be affected must be consulted. So this is not council rules, these are not something that you guys have dreamt up. This is an Act of Parliament which is not being followed to the letter, therefore not properly. People are missing out, we missed out, we didn't get the opportunity to, on the last day that there was for submissions, we found out about the proposal. We didn't really have time to consider it much, we rushed in, managed to chuck something in and get involved, but basically too late. So the thing is, I've got here as well, what I'll just chuck in here, is it wasn't for here, but we actually prepared a document which is a bit like a petition. It's a brief statement. It's been signed by about, I think it's about 18, 19 businesses and about 6 community groups that are involved in our local area. It wasn't gathered for presentation at this particular stage, but I want to present it now anyway. There is 1 or 2 other people that want to sign it that we haven't managed to catch up with. And all of these people are basically just the businesses. This isn't the general public as such. There's businesses who believe they're going to be affected, and other groups. We've spoken also to the school on Gloucester Street who would like to join this particular action, but of course they've got to put it back through their board, and it's a bit of a process before they can sort of get formally involved. And there's a couple of other businesses that we just haven't managed to connect with to get a signature, but they do want to be involved. So basically it's everybody. Everybody here is in total fear that they are about to lose their life's work, their life savings, and their family security is all going to go down the tube. Because for some reason, someone at the council has decided that that set of lights has to be stopped for the cycleway. They're going to stop transit for cars up and down Worcester Street, but they're still going to have a set of lights for the cycles and the pedestrians. So where's the advantage? And if they're saying that one of the theories is that it's going to speed up progress of vehicles going up and down Fitzgerald Ave. But how's that going to work if we've taken all the cars that were on Worcester Street and put them into the next set of lights at Hereford and Gloucester? And if it's about pollution that we're creating these cycleways, how's that going to work when all these extra cars are now sitting at the lights at Gloucester Street? And so it now takes you 4 sets of rotations to get through the lights instead of 2. So how's that going to work? Where's the gain in pollution there? What happened when we got the cars, instead of just cruising up and down there, now they're parked at the set of lights on the next street? So it's mainly nonsensical. There has been no cost-benefit analysis done. There is no numbers, there is no figures. No one even knows how many bike riders there are in Christchurch, let alone how many bikes there are, how many were sold last year, how many are anticipating to sell this year, how many is there's going to be in 10 years' time. There's nothing. So basically we want something done, because this is the destruction of one of the oldest little shopping zones in town. And the other thought is on some people's minds is, what is the council doing? Trying to shut it down because they don't want competition for the inner city, which is now struggling. And is going to struggle, because part of our submission is in fact, where is the opportunity for these small businesses to get started, to operate in town? They're not going to be in town, all the rent's too dear. There's no opportunity for small-time start-up. They're all businesses who are going to be in town or have already got previous experience of some sort, money behind them and maybe a name. that they've built up over years and now they're moving into town. But for some small, someone wants to open a dress shop, I don't think they'll be doing it in Christchurch Central. There's not many shops left. I own some shops down on the corner of Limit Ave, which I was planning on fixing. I've spent money on architects and engineers. We've got it all lined up to do it, but I'm not sure whether we now want to throw the extra money at doing it. What for? I mean, is there even a value in me doing that? Because originally we wanted to restore those shops so we could say, well, here's some shops that are going to still be available for people at a reasonable price, where a new business might be able to get in and give it a go. But now there'll be about 80% of whatever traffic was left. They've had, how many goes they had at Worcester Street? They've knocked it off at Limit Ave. They've gone down, at that stage we were running a business there, just about half the business, and quite a few businesses went out at Stanmore Road at the time. Then they went down to Latimer Square, they knocked it off there. About another half the businesses that were at Stanmore Road fell off. Okay, and there was blank shops there that were just, the fronts were just blanked off. They were used for nothing, for storage. And that's how it was up until the earthquake. And now we're going to what? Just say, now we've got empty property there. We've got, well, are the owners going to want to rebuild their property? What for? If they can't rent it out, they can't rent it out if the person can't rely on having some customers drive past. What's going to happen? Is it just going to be some bike riders on the weekend that are going to support all these businesses? Are they going to be going in now the butcher shop? I don't know. I doubt it. So what I say is, quite frankly, it's a total fail with the design and getting involved with the community to find out what is actually required there, what's needed, what's wanted, what the future potential is, all the rest of it. So there's already been, goodness knows how many people have gone bankrupt and gone where, we don't know what's happened to them after that. No one really cares. They just disappear off the map somewhere. So is that what it is for everybody else that I've got on this list? Is that what their destiny is?
Certainly
I don't know.
not. But look, thank you very much. Time.
Oh, just one other thing.
No, you've gone well over the 5 minutes.
Have I done the 5 minutes?
I've simply...
Car parking at the bus exchange is non-existent. If you're a member of the public trying to drop someone off and pick someone up at the bus exchange, you've got to park on a taxi stand or a bus stop. Another failed bit of design work. Yep. And that's what happens when you try and rush all the stuff through too way quickly.
Yep.
Less haste, more speed.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Right. Next is Warren Haynes.
Thank you. I've been a resident in Roxton Terrace since 1993. Design work for the complete renewal of that street, involving the replacement of old dish channel, footpaths, berms and carriageway in and around the preservation of existing plane trees, was actively worked through by a council project team and an active residents association throughout 2009 and 2010. The Fenelton Waimari Community Board considered and approved the design on its 13th of July 2010 meeting, and the works were scheduled for construction in the financial year 1st of July 2011. We appreciate what happened to our city from September 2010 onwards. In October 2010, the Council's Capital Programs Group wrote to street residents, a copy is in here, to inform that due to extensive damage there would be a deferral of the 2010-2011 Capital Works renewal program for 9 months. Now in February 2011 the earthquake sequence continued with further damage to Council's infrastructure. However, since 2010 there's been no further contact with Roxton Terrace residents, at least to my knowledge, by the Capital Program Group. I've recently made a few calls to follow up in advance of this submission to the annual plan with Council's Traffic Operations team, and it appears that Roxton Terrace isn't at any stage in any current time frame for the next 10 years. And I believe I understand why. There's obviously other priorities. We're disappointed that our wait over recent years for Council to bring the renewal back onto budgets is now seemingly in vain. Now, the level of service criteria that triggered the need for street renewal in 2010 has obviously changed, but in my view is that Council change of strategy has not been articulated well to residents. If we cannot rely on Council renewal mechanisms to fix our street, how are residents to be assured that Council are dealing with repairs and maintenances as a type of holding pattern strategy for managing its asset? How does Council intend differently assessing the condition of its roading assets that were once due for renewal? How do residents interact with Council as ratepayers to tell Council there appears to be no logical, transparent system of strategic maintenance versus various levels of street work renewal? Having waited for 6 years to get Roxton Terrace renewal work to be actioned, are councillors now signalling that they would prefer to see residents use the request for service or report a problem function in its website to manage ratepayer street maintenance expectations? My suggestion is that Council insist on the settling of in-house transparent criteria to fairly assign the funds for repair and renewal, and to re-engage with ratepayers like ourselves who do not understand what's happening to their neighbourhoods from a maintenance perspective. I've just started to write some criteria, but look, the age and evenness of footpaths, the cracks and repair history of footpaths, the RFS history for footpath repairs, accidents due to footpath condition, condition of carriageway including loadings and repair history and failure, safety considerations, for example, is the street close to a school or a cycle route, the ability to interact with residents association, and how do we fairly balance the expectations who perhaps pay more in rates per 10 metres of road compared to others. If Council chooses to undertake works in certain streets, how this influences property values compared to streets that have no perceived maintenance or renewal works. Now, just as a footnote, and the last photograph that's in the attachment, I was usurped because last Tuesday the carriageway overlay and asphalt actually occurred in Idris Road, and between Idris Road and Jackson's Road along Roxton Terrace. It's interesting, the contract works were done in asphalt. What would have been done from a renewal perspective probably would have been chip seal, but in actual fact the asphalt was viewed as a better longer term maintenance solution for that particular section of street. I'm a little perplexed about that, but we've still got large sections of dish channel down the street and a high standard of house and home renewals that are occurring, emptying out onto a street that was ready for renewal in 2010. Roxton Terrace isn't the only street, there's a number of other streets, so I just encourage Council to set about some transparent criteria and to communicate it to residents.
Thank you. When I read your submission, I was actually really pleased with how you presented it, because I couldn't agree with you more that having a transparent set of criteria in a post-disaster environment would be much better than just saying nothing.
Well, in actual fact, I've been sitting waiting for the renewal, and this year I decided to make a submission to the annual plan.
I'm really pleased that you did, because I mean, we'll obviously discuss it as a council, but I really favour your idea about the sorts of things that you might want to put into a set of criteria, and I really want us to have quite an open conversation about that. I mean, we're not going to fix it overnight in the annual plan, but we're going into an LTP process next time, and I think we could be much better prepared for that process if we establish the criteria in time for the LTP.
Yeah, I agree. It's very reactive inside your council at the moment.
We're coming to the end of the SCIRT program. So the SCIRT program has really driven the earthquake-related damage, and now it's earthquake-related damage will be coming back to the council to prioritise as against renewals, and it's going to be hugely challenging, which is why I really like the idea of having an agreed set of criteria, which we could publicly consult on.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for your submission. It's much appreciated. Okay. I'm glad that you didn't just sit at home this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And look, I'm sorry, but Tim Baker sent in a submission, and somehow our system didn't receive it. So Tim, could you come forward and we'll hand out hard copies of a submission, but we won't have had the benefit of having read it first.
That's okay.
So you alone are the only one who hasn't had your submission read before you come to the table.
Yeah, Dion had a sneak preview.
Right. Far away.
Well, hello all. I'm here today to talk about peer pressure. And I just ask that all you people today don't bow down to peer pressure, but after you've heard all the facts and questions and talked to a lot of people, make up your own minds without looking at peer pressure. So I think I'm probably the only one speaking against the hot water pools in Brighton. And one of the reasons I believe that is because people I speak to who agree with me don't want to talk out for different reasons. And part of that is peer pressure. So saltwater pools in Brighton, the reasons I don't agree with them is I think the best asset for Brighton is the car park between the surf club and the whale pool. Thousands of people go up there and park their cars and look out and take your bodyboards out and play with the kids. It's nice and safe getting back to your car. So that's I believe that's the best asset in Brighton. We don't want to lose that. To think it's going to regenerate Brighton, I don't believe that the shops are going to get any more patronage through people going to salt pools. Currently 10,000 people a month go on the pier, but do they shop in the mall? Unlikely.
No, I know who.
I don't believe that 75,000 people in the first year and 50,000 people in the second year are going to be going to the pools. And at 50,000 people a year, it's going to cost the ratepayers $100,000. Sorry, it's going to cost, if there's 50,000 people, it's going to cost up to $2 million a year for OPEX from the ratepayer. So what I'm suggesting is, let's not put saltwater pools there. If you read that later on, you'll see also about the questionnaire, the summary done by DCL, and I pull it to pieces as well. But look at that yourself and decide for yourselves. I think also the council from last term put DCL in a hard position of trying to create something they can't do. And that's where I'm coming from. I'm speaking as an individual because as a board, the board as a whole have supported this hot water pools. Me as an individual, I'm acting as an individual. So instead of hot water pools, I just put down some thoughts, and one of my thoughts is, if you're going to build a 200 square metre house, 200 square metre shop in Brighton, what's it going to cost? $2 million? Let's say it's $1 million. How much do you want to get back on your return? 10%? So $100,000? Is somebody going to pay $100,000 rent? I suggest not. So what I'm suggesting is, let's do the whale pool, of course. Don't worry about warm water or hot water. Kids don't mind cold water. And the playground area and that green space, for example, why not build a big hill and put 12 slides on it? So my kids will say, come on, Dad, let's go and play in the water pool and on the slides and go to the beach, and then we may go to the mall as well afterwards. So why not put the other $16 million into the mall? We've got a great master plan. It's got no money with it, but it's a really good plan. So why not put some seeding money into foundations? So say to those people who are going to be building those companies, say, look, we'll pay for your foundations, but you cap the rents at a reasonable rent so people can afford to rent there, at least the buildings, and there'll be a win-win for everybody. So that's all I've got to say. I'll take questions for 1 minute and 34 seconds.
Far away. David.
Thanks, Tim. Look, I absolutely support your right to submit against the hot salt water pools, but what I'm interested in, you've spoken to many people and many agree with what I'm saying, but look, we've had a number of submissions, surveys commissioned by individuals, commissioned by DCL, commissioned by council, all of which come back supporting the inclusion of hot salt water pools in New Brighton. How many and how do you justify your comment that there are a number of people in opposition when we clearly see that the surveys that have been done would suggest that...
Because what I've done is I've asked them...
80% plus.
Do you think there's going to be swimming? Yes. Well, if there's not, do you support them? What? Do you realise it's not seawater going in there? What do you mean? No, they're going to add salt water. Oh, we know chlorine though. Yes, salt water has chlorine. So people aren't aware of what's being talked about by DCL into what is going to be there. And I know there's going to be consultation and stuff like that, but this is what we've been told at DCL meetings, is some more facts than they know. So that's talking to people about those things is how I come to that conclusion.
But you would agree that you're in quite a minority.
When you wanted a water park in Brighton, there was 20,000 signatures. Who would today support a water park in Brighton with 20,000 signatures? Would you bow down to that pressure today?
Probably the same 20,000.
Exactly. Thank you.
There you go. You've had your 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
No, I also agree that with what David said, absolute right to present their point of view. Linda Rutland.
Good evening, Councillor and Mayor. Jackie Maurice will speak first.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight. We're part of the Linwood College Community Partnership Group. We've been working with Linwood College for a couple of years now just to help facilitate their reconnection with their local cohort and their wider community. So our submission focused on the things that we thought would have a positive impact on the students who'll be attending Linwood College and their families. So we just wanted to endorse and say that we were delighted to see the budget allocation for the Rapanui Shagrock Cycleway, also the Coastal Pathway project. It's going to make a huge difference for local children to be able to cycle safely to school. And given that all the stars are aligned with all the other wonderful things that are going on with the school at the moment, that's a really positive thing. And in a similar way, we were pleased to see that there's going to be some work done on intersection safety around that area too. The main focus of tonight's conversation with you is really to do with the Linwood Woolston pool though, and Linda's going to talk a bit about that.
Yes, so we noted with relief last year the planned expenditure in the long-term annual plan, and also the time frame for the delivery of that, and we were really excited. It's great, and we're coming to you today just to urge you to keep to that time frame and to keep that budget as you've already signalled it. It's hugely important for the community, and everyone out there is very excited about it. So we understand that it's to be delivered. The building will start in 2018 in April and be complete by December 2019. I'm in a unique position to talk about just how long the children and families of this community have been waiting for this council investment in them. As I was chair of the first Linwood Woolston Aquatics Facility Committee when I was on the community board back in 2002. That's some 15 years ago. The reason the board set up this subcommittee was in response to a deputation made by our dearest and now departed friend, Rod Donald. Rod brought to the board's attention the absolute lack of recreational resource there is in not only Linwood but the whole of the southeast area. There's no such facility from Scarborough right through to the city. Together we worked very hard on this issue, and then way back then, and finally in the 2007 annual plan, thanks to the hard work of Councillor Dennis O'Rourke, we were able to be successful and put money on budget for a pool. Regrettably, due to a very tragic accident, we lost that money to the Papanui ward, which already had a fantastic swimming pool nearby in the form of Jelly Park. We lost it due to the sad and untimely death of Graham Condon, which was, really sad. And additionally, after that happened, Dennis O'Rourke lost his seat. So we were sort of a bit at sea to try and get our pool. Now this is history, but what is not history is that the children and youth from this area are still waiting for and are even more in need of premium recreational space, particularly aquatic space. Unfortunately, this community is not an active community. It is, it's got lots of issues. It cannot get out there and be the squeaky wheel. And so it's why groups like us have even set up to support the high school. So you've really got to look hard at that community and what it needs. We know that's got the highest level of criminality running through it in the corridor, all sorts of social issues. So to have a recreational facility like the aquatic pool would just be an awesome thing for kids to just take off and make use of and get some joy in their lives. And I think it's also really important for the families of Linwood to just see that the council is giving equity, it's giving resource where it's given it in other parts of the city. So on the behalf of the Linwood Community Partnership Group, I ask the council to support this project by retaining the budget and the delivery time as previously announced to the community. Let's finally allow Rod Donald's dream of an aquatic facility for the children of the South East Christchurch to become a reality. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you. I was just going to say that some of that background a lot of the councillors won't have heard before, and it's not in the actual submission. Are you able to email that through to Secretariat to come out to us?
Yep.
That would be really useful.
I actually was going to say exactly the same thing. It would be very helpful to have that because I didn't know how far back the history went either.
Yeah, no, it's been around a long, long time.
Yeah. Phil, Dion, you're not Dion, you're Glenn, and Pauline. They do. Well, they've both got the same haircut. Shrinking.
So, thank you very much for your submission, and particularly for that history, which clearly means a lot to everyone here. But I'm just putting in perspective, because you make the point that the expenditure will be non-negotiable in terms of the delivery. And I'm just wondering how you might see a pool, say, in Linwood, in conjunction with many others, which council has also got requests for. And particularly because we won't have done a whole assessment of all of the pools and the future operations costs by the time we sign off the annual plan. So would you be open to making sure that in fact all the pools, and potentially including one at Linwood, that in fact they'd be workable in terms of, for example, future operations costs, and so that the scale of the pool actually would work for everybody?
Well, it's just that at the time when we were doing it, the areas that were needing it were Papanui, Hornby and Linwood, and those areas are largely being taken care of. And
Hornby, except Hornby.
Hornby.
And but they've still got the Horsewell pool, haven't they?
No?
No, it's not out that way.
Hornby, so, Hornby's got huge pressure on
But
it.
we've lost Centennial Pool, and we've closed down Woolston Pool, so we've got virtually nothing. Well, we have got nothing. And so it's just a matter of time. It's just our time. And I just feel it's inequitable to delay it even further.
Yep. So, yeah, I guess...
because you can't...
The answer to your question is no. It was a very cleverly drafted question, but the answer was no. No, thank you. We'd like to have the confirmation.
Yeah, you just can't tell a community, we're giving it to you, and not do it.
I wasn't implying that.
No, but I understand Phil's question, because there are, you know, multiple OPEX costs which go with all of the facilities, you know, and even though we're replacing a metro facility with a local facility at QE2, we are we're putting in a metro facility into the CBD, which is nowhere near the scale of what was there before. What was it? Centennial. The most popular swimming pool and facility that the City Council ran. So, and it will never be that. But no, I mean, it's quite clear that a smaller community-based swimming pool for the Linwood area is what you're saying becomes a non-negotiable part of the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You're not saying about timing. You're not saying about, you know, but it's got to stay in the plan as a non-negotiable delivery.
Well, it is about timing. I mean, how long can you wait? I mean, I'm talking 15 years of my time, and then I didn't even know about the issue till Rod came and talked to
but we have had earthquakes and various other things.
Oh, sure, totally understand that. But the thing about the metro facility, it's not going to really touch those kids in Linwood, because they just don't have the cash to get there, or the ability to get there.
Yeah, well, we need to also look at how we transport kids there, because we should actually make sure that all of our kids get access to that facility.
And I'm sure that any decisions that you make, you know, around cost will be mitigated, or you will take into consideration the need and the desire of a community to have a facility for their families. Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Glenn, then Pauline.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for this, and I understand, and I think of Bob Todd often too, actually, when, you know, Linwood is mentioned, but I also think of Edgware Pool, so they don't have any, as far as I'm aware, any kind of funding allocation, capital-wise. Have you got any thoughts on that?
So
they've had a long battle, as you know.
So
Edgware's a community pool.
I can't recall the detail of why Edgware Pool went down, why we lost it. Was that the earthquakes or pre-earthquake?
No, it was previous. Council closed it. Yeah.
Yeah, so council had already made a decision that wasn't in need of a pool, but the community rose up and they've got some money, as I understand it, and now you're adding to that. But that's a much different scale to what we need in Linwood.
Yes, but still, as far as I'm aware, there's no funding there?
No.
For the Edgware? Okay.
Yeah, but that issue rose up, just before the earthquakes.
Yeah.
They're also a different type of community.
Yeah, I'm asking Linda.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, like, the thing is,
I'm asking.
The submitter's perfectly entitled to come along and say what they say.
Absolutely.
Pauline.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, while you're there, congratulations on having your partnership group. I think that's really great. And mentioning the Edgware Pool, it is a community project, and that's being led by a charitable trust, an incorporated society. And they're going to run that pool if they ever get the thing built. And I know they will, it's just a matter of time. They've been battling for 11 years now. So you do need tenacity. But that means that there'll be no operational costs for council, because they'll be able to, if there's any shortfall, they'll be able to hopefully raise money through trusts and donations. Have you thought of possibly running the Linwood Pool as a trust in order to ease things up for council a little bit, and also to empower the community?
No, but I'd like to see that looked at, but I doubt very much that could happen in Linwood at the
It has to come
time.
from the community.
Yeah, they're just so stretched, and they just don't have the resources to do it. Yeah, and there's not even strong residents associations or anything.
Yeah.
So, I would doubt that it could happen in that area.
And the other thing is I don't even know if it's got as far as being designed or anything yet, but have you got an idea of what, if you say it was Rod's vision, what was the size and scale of it? When you say a community pool, what?
It wasn't enormous, but it was,
Was it one pool, two pools?
It was like the young toddlers pool and the bigger pool, a bit like Pioneer, really.
Right,
That's how I'd say.
Okay. Thank you. I guess it'll all come out eventually when people start working on what they want, and It's got to be fit for purpose, that's the main thing.
Exactly. It gets so well used because it's on the transport corridors right through from Sumner, and it's on the bus routes. It'll be incredibly well used. So
appreciate that. I guess none of us would like to see it of such a scale that it became competition with the Metro one either. So, do you think that's an issue?
No.
You don't think it would?
No, not at all. I don't no.
think so.
You've got to. A lot of people don't even think about town anymore. They just,
But they will.
It's their suburbs.
They will. I mean, the thing
Yeah.
is in terms of the time scale, they
Yeah.
will. But I mean, it's a justifiable issue both ways. But Mike.
Thank you. I was just curious because there's quite a lot of, I guess, aquatic facilities and other leisure facilities currently being built around the annual plan. So in terms of priority, would you prioritise, I guess, a community pool over a tourist attraction?
Yes. I would.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. It's all about healthy communities.
It is indeed.
Make strong cities.
Strong communities.
It is indeed. Yanni.
Thank you for coming in. Just quickly, I just sense that you're not quite clear about what's happening. So what communication, given that you're doing really amazing work with Linwood College, what communication have you had from council over what's happening with the Linwood Woolston pool? And do you have any suggestions about how we might improve the engagement and the communication?
Well, I wouldn't put hand over heart to say I haven't had anything, but to my knowledge, we haven't had any major initiator of consultation. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Presume.
Which I'm a
Which
bit concerned
people
about because of the
hasn't
time
started
frame
that
that's already been signalled. There hasn't been a start to the consultation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. Well, look, thank you very much for coming in, and sorry that you were last of.
That's right.
But
last but not least.
Last but not least. That's absolutely the case, and good to see you. Thank you. That, my friends, is the end of the hearing of submissions. Am I going to close the meeting, or am I adjourning it to when we consider it'll be a new meeting. So it'll be a new meeting when we consider the annual plan. So I'll formally now close the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's good. I didn't pick up this one.